Starting off the ag markets blast. Unfortunately, I was tied up. Let's wait for Angie to join. 1 second. Oh, here she is. Invite to co-host. Send co-host invite. Again, apologies for this. Unfortunately I was in the doctor's and it kind of overran.
Start talking even though you haven't made me like I'm not the captain yet. I just like, and then I'm like, wait, no one can hear me.
No,
But like
you've
I
definitely.
said, no need to apologize.
No, there is a need to apologise. It's a very busy day, and I let the side down. I was caught out. But anyway, let me quickly get the legals out of the way. So nothing, as usual, nothing discussed in this spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PRQ Global Limited, trades PRQ or PRQ Suite, or indeed the hosts, who as you know by now is the awesome Angie and the very tardy Ryan, and I'm hanging my head in shame.
It's Friday. No one even cares if you're 7, 8 minutes late on a Friday. It's totally fine, unless it's the USDA numbers. And at that point, I'm gonna flip the desk if they're late on release today. But honestly, I probably could bet with better consistency that they will be late on the release than anything else. But what you gonna do? So, biggest thing today, biggest point that we're paying attention to. Obviously, is going to be the USDA numbers that we have coming out this afternoon or midday today, Eastern time. Looking at traders expecting, a bit of a trim in corn ending stocks, down about 63 million bushels from last month. Much of that is coming from a 50 million bushel expected reduction in production for corn. So we did have a pretty dry finish to the growing season and had some anecdotal yield reductions, just folks kind of talking about maybe a little less than what we thought we would see. On top of that, from a cash market standpoint, and that's the one thing that I kind of keep looking at here as we head into this report, is we had pretty much a record fast pace when it came to harvest and moving the bushels out of the field into the bin or to the elevator, wherever they were going. And we honestly did not really see an absolute implosion like everyone anticipated we would see, just basis collapse, spreads widen out as far as they would make sense economically and all these other things. And we didn't really see that. We saw a continuation of strength in bids into the end of December. And now we're seeing more farmer movement and getting a little bit sloppier on that market side. But, I'm saying all of this simply because most traders coming into today's report are kind of leaning actually a little bit lower in their expectations of numbers versus what the average trade guess is. So that'll be something to watch because it could impact market reaction. But noon Eastern, it will be, when we get the largest dose of information, one of the best reports or one of the biggest chunks of data of the year. We'll also get winter wheat plantings. Traders are expecting winter wheat plantings to stay relatively steady from a year ago, maybe a slight reduction in some winter wheat acres. And overall global stocks, corn is expected to come in lower, beans slightly higher because folks are anticipating a bit of an increase in the South American crop size, Brazil especially, and wheat unchanged. So today's numbers, the biggest thing about today's numbers, obviously, is the numbers matter, what the USDA has to say versus expectations. But also what's really nice about getting these numbers today is it removes that sort of 500-pound gorilla that you have in the room. When it's looking at, okay, where are we going? What is the actual, what's the USDA going to say? Are we worried that, is this number bigger? Is it smaller? Give us a final production figure and let us move forward with our lives.
Can we though? Can we move forward with our lives after this?
Absolutely not. Like after this, now we'll start talking about, like what is the next report? What is this? What is that? What planted acres? That's the new thing now. Everyone wants to talk about planted acres. It's January 10th. Each and every person talking about planted acres right now. If you complain about Christmas in the store before November 1st, I have a message for you because you're doing the same thing. But yeah, so that'll be it. It'll give us a final view of 2024 production that's especially huge. That'll be a big thing. It'll be reconciled because of the quarterly stocks data that we get, and then we'll be able to go on. So point one, big USDA day. Point two, big EPA day. Let's go with our government acronyms if we could. We may see, or maybe it's more IRS than EPA, but we are expecting to get some 45Z guidance. And so that's been one of the things that's been weighing really heavily upon this market lately. Soybean market, soybean oil market, is just this idea that we're going to see a drop in domestic demand due to the fact that we really don't have any sort of guidance. We lost the $1 blender tax credit at the end of December. And we're pretty much just kind of going forward with this idea that you could see crushers or blenders, back off on their production, and that would back off on demand, and all of that stuff would matter. But now we're talking that we could see 45Z out today. So bit of a conflicting, I'm getting a couple different conflicting ideas. We've got Corey Levinsky, great follow when it comes to biofuel stuff. He's on Twitter. And he had said that he's hearing or catching wind that this is just kind of like an interim. This is just sort of like, here, talk about these rules. Let us know what you think. It's really not specific guidance. But on the flip side, I have a friend of mine who is in the biofuel industry and who has, some pretty solid connections and folks that he talks to there. And I tend to lean on what he's thinking. And so he is saying basically like, Treasury plans to notice an intent of proposed rulemaking tomorrow. So Corey would be correct. This isn't necessarily 100% solid. The Trump administration is going to have to confirm this. There may be public time to chatter, talk about it, and all that other stuff. We'll be looking at getting the GREET model next week. So that's going to be super important. That's going to give us the production practices kind of that qualify for this. And give us an indication of what we need. The talk is that the GREET model, you may not see this climate smart agriculture included, which that had been a hang up that had people kind of worked up about what that would look like or not look like. Obviously this is all very, very preliminary. But the biggest thing that we're seeing, and that's probably why you're getting the shot in the arm that you are with soybean oil, is that it does appear as though UCO, used cooking oil imports, would not be eligible for this pathway. They would not be eligible for the tax credits that domestic feedstocks are getting. And so in his summary, he said he's bullish RINs, bullish bean oil, but we're going to have to see what the heck happens next and what Trump decides to do, because really this is just kind of like, here's our idea. You guys go ahead and let us know what you want to do with it. And so yeah, it's not answered just yet, or it may not be final just yet, but it does appear as though we're at least going to get some type of guidance, and that is desperately needed.
So on this, I remember you saying a couple of weeks ago that basically, well, one of the things that was irking you was the fact that there was just no communication on it. So I suppose
Yes.
we're one step in the right direction, because at least people are now talking about it. But
yes,
we still need answers.
Well, and I think that it's super important too. We need the answers. I think this is kind of showing us that the government is leaning in that direction of kind of closing that UCO imported, the imported used cooking oil loophole that everyone had kind of been hollering about. It does look like we'll see that get closed. On top of that, one of those things, just kind of in a relation sort of conversation, Indonesia is looking to restrict their exports of used cooking oil as well, because they're going to want to keep that to home and use it for their own good, and things like that. But they also admitted that there was virgin palm oil going into the UCO. And so that's one of those things that we've been talking about for quite some time. And so I think you're going to see a global shift in used cooking oil. And I think a lot of countries that had been exporting theirs, with gusto, are going to kind of realize, now, wait a minute, that's valuable to us. And so you're seeing a pretty significant shift in vegetable oils. And there are a lot of people that I really trust who are exceptionally smart when it comes to trading physical vegetable oils and dealing with them in that regard. And, they remain exceptionally bullish in the year ahead, just trying to figure out how we solve the supply and demand, especially if we do get guidance in 45Z and know that domestic demand continues to move on decently. So that's point two. Point three.
Point three. Finish us off. Finish strong.
Finish us off with La Nina. And I can't even talk about La Nina or El Nino without the Chris Farley, I am El Nino. That's Spanish for the Nino. But now we have the Nina.
You can tell it's a Friday.
That's what we have, the Nina coming at us. And so that's going to be one of the things that we're going to be watching. We've been waiting for La Nina to show up. La Nina tends to really heavily influence South American production more. Well, I'm not going to say more than U.S. production, but if it's still around in the spring, that could indicate that we could end up with problems, especially with Kansas City wheat production. It tends to, in the U.S., result in a drought in the southern Plains, especially, and in the Western Corn Belt. So that'll be something to watch. But that's, 5 months from now, or maybe not 5, 3 months from now. It is something to watch in Argentina. It should kind of keep the pattern a little bit drier as we work our way January, February timeframe. And it's especially something to watch for Brazil. So the U.S. Climate Prediction Center said they thought that it would be, it would weaken and probably go away, a 60% chance by March, April, or May. If it does not, if you see a continuation of that, the worry becomes that we get an early, you run into an increased risk of earlier frosts in Brazil, as well as an earlier shutdown to the rainy season. And so we've seen this happen a couple different times, and it's resulted in some production losses on the safrinha end for Brazil and in Argentina, for corn and soybeans both. And so it'll be something to watch, something to pay attention to, and likely will keep us on our toes for a while, just because it could also influence what happens in the U.S. in the year ahead. And that is it. I give to you
Awesome.
3 points.
3 points. Again, I can't apologise enough for being slightly tardy on the start of this, but thank you so much, Angie, as always, for another amazing week. I wish you, especially, and also our listeners, obviously, an amazing weekend. I hope whatever you're up to, you stay safe and you have a good time. Also, keep an eye out on the markets today, and we will see you Monday.
We will be back Monday for sure. And those of you who are listening right now, if you're going to be around when the report comes out, we do a live drop.
Ah,
So you will hear the spaces. It starts 11:55 Eastern time. And we'll kind of do a rundown of what traders are expecting. And then when the USDA gives us that nice little data dump we're all waiting for, we'll have all the info and give you an update on what the market's doing as a result.
awesome. I'll make sure I repost that as well when that gets live and started. So everyone tune into that and listen to Angie tell you exactly what you need to know.
At least do what I think you need to know. So
Well,
that's
yeah, but
you got
that'll
that.
do. That'll do. Cool. Well,
But
thank you so
awesome.
much. See you later.
Have a good one.